Recently, there was a story in the Australian news outlets, New South Wales, the Sydney Morning Herald, with the title of "Christian Couple Vow to Divorce If Same-Sex Marriage is Legalized." I'm going to post a link down below in the no bar. But I kind of want you to hear some of the things that he has to say about it. Hang on a second.
Well, once you say that marriage is detached from children, it's just about love, then when three people come to the state and say, well, we're all in love, then the state has no grounds except unjust discrimination to say why they can't get married.
All right. Once again, we hear this argument where if we change the definition of marriage, then there's not only going to be gays getting married, but there will be polyamorous unions. Oh no! If we change the definition of marriage, which has been changed several times over the past few thousand years that humans have had it instituted in their various cultures, we find ourselves in a position where, you know what? Marriage is a commitment between two people nowadays. You know, instead of saying, well, and he's saying that, well, it should only be for children. Really? So childless couples shouldn't get married? What if the couple finds out that they're childless, that they can't have children after they get married? What if there's a biological reason why they cannot have children? Unfortunately, that's a little bit beyond this guy. But let me continue. Nick Jensen is his name, by the way. Like I said, I'll post a link down below. But it continues. It gets better.
So when it becomes detached from a child's right to a mother and a father, and the sacred institution that it is, then suddenly it becomes meaning.
Hold on a second. So you're saying that a mother and a father have to be married in order for them to be involved in their child's life? Okay. And what about parents who are not married because they can't get along with each other, or they can't live together, or maybe one person had a serious issue abusing their spouse, but it turns out that even though they're horrible to their partner, they're actually great with the kids? So what you're saying is that the only reason that two people should ever get married is because of children. What if you know what, there's a lot of questions here, but apparently simple minds have simple thoughts. Let's continue.
And those boundaries can't be put back in place. When we got...
I'm sorry, those boundaries can't be put back in place. Those boundaries were never there. The only people that put the boundaries there are religious folks. The state really didn't care about religious ideology. It just was looking for a way to codify something that, you know, for a very long period of time worked. Let's also not forget that for the longest time, the state also codified polygamy. For the longest time, the state codified a lot of things that are no longer valid today. You know, we no longer sell our daughters to our sons for 2 sheep and a goat. Marriage was changed over time. Moving all along.
Married all those years ago, we made an agreement with the state when we signed that marriage certificate. And that was an agreement about what marriage was and what we were entering into. And that was as husband and wife, as a fundamental order of creation, part of God's intimate story for human history, man and woman, for the sake of children, faithful, and for life.
How many wives did David have for life? How many wives did Solomon have for life? How many wives did many of the patriarchs have for life? All at the same time. Again, marriage, by definition, the definition of marriage has changed over time. And there was a period of time where marriage was just another form of slavery. Sex slavery at that. Moving right along.
And so if later on in the year the state does go ahead and potentially change the definition of marriage or change the terms of that contract, then we can no longer partake in that new definition, unfortunately.
So in other words, your commitment to one another is no longer valid. Listen to yourselves for a moment. Listen to the way what he's saying. He is not going to honor his commitment to his wife. Okay? He's no longer going to honor his word to his wife to remain faithful and true and loyal to his wife. And his wife is no longer going to remain faithful and loyal and true to him because the state changed the rules, allowing his fellow Australians to have the same rights and privileges he enjoys as a straight heterosexual male. Now, Mrs. Dumock and I have been married for almost 20 years now. And, you know, we have different views on things in terms of our ideology, but our marriage still works and our marriage is still there because we made a commitment to one another, and we intend on honoring that commitment. We don't necessarily have to like everything that happens in our marriage, but you know what? We're committed to each other. We're loyal to each other. You know, the whole thing about marriage is not about the parts of the people involved, because there are married couples whose parts don't work. But the whole point of marriage is loyalty, commitment, integrity towards one another. You know, and if it just so happens that three people want to make a vow of commitment of loyalty to one another, that's great. You know what? That's good on them. They have three people there that they can be loyal to. That's actually not a bad idea. But to say that your commitment is based upon what other people do, and if people are treated fairly and justly, you're going to walk out of your commitment because you're too much of a coward to stick it out? That is one of the most selfish, asinine things I've ever heard. And I'm an extremely selfish person. Okay? I'm an extremely selfish person, and I think that that's incredibly wrong. Because if you make a commitment to somebody, you make a commitment. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no, caveats here, unless that person is mistreating you or committing adultery on you or running around and doing stupid stuff, or putting you in harm's way. That's a different situation altogether. But if you're making a commitment to a person, guess what? Make your commitment, honor your commitment, but don't expect everybody else to, practice their commitment the same way you do. You keep your word. Don't worry about everybody else. Forget everybody else. You do what's right for you. Being a coward. That is the most cowardly thing I ever heard.
Look, I think the state should have a role in marriage if it is affirming what is good about marriage.
Which it does. But it also, the people within the state also understand that sometimes marriages go horribly wrong, hence we have divorce.
I can understand why some people might be upset, but our intention isn't to hurt anyone or focus on any individual.
No, your intention is to be spiteful, petty, vindictive, vicious, selfish, rude. There's a whole lot more words that I can use, but I'm trying to keep it within a G rating. Again, Mr. Jensen, yeah, you're a coward. Tell the truth and shame the devil, you're a coward.
Really, our intention is for discussing at a deeper level what marriage actually is.
Marriage is a commitment of loyalty between two people to share their resources and maybe raise a family, or better yet, to look after one another, which is the most important part. Because if you don't have kids, guess what? You have to look after one another. That's part of the commitment. And if you cannot honor your commitment because you are afraid of other people having the same rights and privileges you do not belong to be married. You should be a single person for the rest of your life and quit pretending that marriage is something that it's not. It is a commitment. It is an oath. It is a vow. And if you can't keep it, don't make it. This is Dumac the Artist signing off. Have a nice day.